Welcome to Saturday versus Sunday. I'm Jeff Dover. With me is John Barbin. Let's talk football.
Yeah, we're doing NCAA Week 13 picks and previews. We're going to pick some, give you our bets and our locks of the week of
Cash
the year.
money. If you've been looking at the thumbnails, it's just cash. They're not even bets. It's just more like bank IOUs.
Yep, that's basically what it is. If you're following, we're still up for the season, right?
Yeah, it's we now saying all that, you might probably best just to leave your money in the bank right now. Looking at last week. So we had Utah, Colorado over 46.5. We had Penn State, Purdue more than 50.5. Boston College, SMU, Boston College plus 19.5. That was fantastic. Missouri, South Carolina more than 43.5. South Carolina pretty much did that all on their own. But then we've got a string of Tennessee, Georgia more than 48.5. Missed it by half a point.
Mm-hmm.
Washington State, New Mexico less than 72.5. Missed by half a point. Tennessee, Georgia, Tennessee plus 10.5. That's where the Georgia came out of, looked like old Georgia that game. That's why they beat them so much. BYU minus 2.5. Kansas was the better team. Kansas, BYU more than 56.5. Kansas defense was better than we thought. LSU minus 3.5. That was the more probably the most surprising one of the weekend.
Yeah,
that I was so confident that LSU was going to win and that this was a game that Florida was going to lose, but Lagway played really well. LSU didn't. That was surprising. Washington State, New Mexico, Washington State minus 11.5. Washington State was rolling and then didn't against New Mexico. And then same thing with the UCLA Washington. That was one we threw on before from the Thursday game, UCLA plus 3.5. So
we also took the Washington State, New Mexico under, and we missed by a half a point.
Yep, 72.5, and there was 73.
Jeez.
Unbelievable.
All
right. So let's.
So that wasn't a great
that week. Now that was a terrible week. But if you should tune into our NFL show because the results were much better, going 7-2.
Yeah. So we're 11-10 for last week if you put the two together.
Yep.
So gotta look at the whole picture, Dover. It's not just one. It's not one side of it.
Yep.
All right. So moving on to our locks of the year of the week for this week coming up. Shall I start?
Please.
All right. So let's see here. Where do we got? All right. So going with the theme of our t-shirts.
Yep.
The biggest game of the week's the Indiana-Ohio State game. I'm taking Indiana plus 13.5. I feel like the odds makers keep putting these lines a bit too big for some of these teams that haven't shown that they can put a top team away. So Indiana, they can score, but they've shown that their defense can tighten down when needed, especially in that Michigan game. But they've also completely shut down other teams. I'm thinking of the Nebraska game specifically. And if you're going to use the transitive property, Indiana's play against Nebraska versus Ohio State's play against Nebraska, Ohio State struggled a lot more with Nebraska than Indiana did. Indiana held them to even fewer points and just completely blew their doors off. So I know it's not a lot of correlation between what happens in two different games with different teams, but it's kind of the only data point we have to really compare these teams.
Yeah, that people absolutely use that to when figuring out the lines and stuff. So that no, you're right.
So I mean, I think Indiana's defense is good. Ohio State's offense can be good, but it shows signs of being able to be shut down by certain teams. Like they didn't score a lot against Penn State. They didn't score a lot against Nebraska. So I'm just assuming Indiana's somewhere in that quality level of defense. Yeah. Penn State, Nebraska type of defense that Ohio State's going to be faced with here. Yeah. And this will be the best offense Ohio State has faced. So I'm surprised the line's as big as it is. So I don't know. To me, that's an obvious bet. Indiana plus 13.5. I think they're going to show up ready to go. Yes, it's in Columbus, but same with the Nebraska game, and Nebraska could have won that game. So it's not like Ohio State's. They don't bring their A game in these games. They almost blew it against Penn State too. Like he fumbled the Ohio State quarterback was Howard. He fumbled on the goal line and he threw a pick. Like he tried to give that game away. So they don't necessarily this year show up big in the big games so far.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's an interesting take. I wasn't sure which way you were going to go on it. For me, this line is all based on the Michigan game. So Indiana only scored 20 points against Michigan.
Yeah.
And that's why this line is under the 2 touchdowns. I think if they, because they're otherwise Ohio State would be favored by more than 2 touchdowns. So I think that I was going to lean Ohio State in this one
to cover 13
yep.
and a half.
Yes, because I think it would have been 2 touchdowns if Indiana. Like, I don't think Indiana is going to be able to move. You had a really good points about all the defense. You're right about the Indiana defense, but I think it's the offense is the story. I think that if the Indiana couldn't do well against Michigan's defense, I think they're going to really struggle against Ohio State. I think the fact that it's at Ohio State, I think they can. It's going to be a late cover, but I think they can. But that's where I was going to be leaning with that one, and the total seems about bang on too. So,
I get maybe it's a recency bias. I see this game more like the Ohio State Oregon game, where both teams might score a bit, and I don't think Ohio State's just going to lock them down the way Michigan did. But I could be wrong. It could be that take. That's the thing. I don't think it's hard to tell what Ohio State's going to show up.
Yes, you're right about that, and that's really the. It's crazy to think that the more known factor is Indiana than an Ohio State matchup.
Yeah, maybe. All right. Well, that's my first one. What do you got?
Okay, so we've got so whenever the line, something that I always find interesting is when one team is heavily favored over another, but the total is pretty low. Because I feel like that's a real specific outcome that has to happen. So that, to me, there's value there either on the total or the spread, depending on what you like better. So the first one I'm going to go to with that is Kentucky at Texas. So Texas is favored by 20.5, which is a lot, but the total is only 46.5, which seems low. I think it'd be tough for Texas to cover that and for that, the total to be under kind of thing. So 3 touchdowns is a fair bit because I think Kentucky's defense is good. But I think that in order for, Texas is going to be, I think this is when style points are coming in too. Like, I think teams aren't going to let up as much near the end. So I probably feel best about the over 46.5, I think, in this one, even though both teams' defenses are pretty good. I just think that 46 is still too low.
And you think Texas is going to be doing the majority of that lifting for that 46?
Correct, because they're favored by 20.5 points.
Right. Yeah, I was looking at this. I wasn't quite sure what to do with it, only because Kentucky can look really dominant on defense and then look terrible. So they held Georgia down. They've held some good teams they beat Ole Miss. They're the strangest team this year.
Yes.
They've put in stellar performances against some of the best teams, and then Florida just blows their doors off. So I don't know what to make of Kentucky. So maybe, to your point, this is more a bet about Texas than anything.
Yeah. And Florida blew their doors off and Texas blew the doors off Florida. Right. So now I think the games were different in this specific case because Florida had a lot of injuries that time when they played Texas and stuff. But if I had to pick one thing, I was going to go with the total. And it's, I think that you're right, though. It's depending on which Kentucky shows up, that would make it either a real sweat or not. So,
yeah, I think this total is going to require Kentucky getting a garbage time touchdown or something.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think Kentucky is good for, they've scored over 20 points in every game but one this year. So that means,
I'm with you. I'm with you. That's the one lean I was thinking of in this game. I just wasn't sure if I was going to do it, but you're doing it. Okay. So my next one here is Iowa State at Utah. It sounds wrong, but I want to take the over here.
Yeah, it does sound
betting
wrong.
Over against Utah's, but betting over against Utah has been working.
Okay.
I think the odds makers are overestimating the quality of this defense. Yeah. They just gave up 50 to Colorado.
Yeah.
And Iowa State, Utah has, I don't want to say has nothing to play for, but they're out of the mix. Iowa State is fighting for their chance at the Big 12 conference. They have to show up here. They just have to. And we've seen that the Utah home advantage isn't what it used to be, at least not this season. We've hit an over with, betting against them at home. So I think Iowa State will have to move the ball purely out of just desperation. They have to do this. They just have to. Mm-hmm. So I'm assuming they're showing up ready to go. And that just, I'm not even sure how how much Utah's even going to contribute to this total. I mean, they're going to get something,
Yeah,
but I think this is my bet. My assumption here, it's all driven by Iowa State just needing to go for it here.
right. The only thing that worries me here is that I think that Utah, like we commented about the Colorado game, that Utah could not stop efficiently Colorado's run game. And so I think Iowa State, as opposed to Colorado, is comfortable running the ball, sucking the timeout, winning like a 14-7 game or something like that, which that's the only concern I have. But I feel good about the over because 41.5 is a
Pretty
crazy low
low. It's
total.
pretty low.
And I also think Utah is good for like at least the score, but also a turnover, an interception or something to put Iowa State in a short field, and maybe we get one or two more possessions that way. It's going to be a sweat, but it might be a late over, field goal with not much time left or something, just to seal a
Iowa
23.
Iowa State has two proper receivers, like legit receivers.
Yes,
and I'm just counting on Beck being the better Rocco Beck and actually making something happen here.
No, that's a good call, and that one is. Yeah, when they're favored over a touchdown and the total's that low, that's similar principle to my Texas one.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. What do you got?
Okay, so next one is this one almost got the shirt today because I feel pretty good about this one. I'm off the BYU train. I love BYU. I wanted to see them do well. I thought they could make things really interesting, but it feels like they peaked at the wrong time and they're hitting a bit of a valley now, which is not a good time to do it on the road against a pretty good Arizona State team that's good at running the ball with a really good running back. So this potentially could also limit the possessions BYU has. I think Arizona State, similar to Iowa State, like everyone in the Big 12 is still, there's a number of people that are still in the mix for this one. I think I can't remember the last time Arizona State had a game not at 10 p.m. on ESPN.
Well, and also this particular game, unlike Iowa State, who needs help, whoever wins the BYU Arizona State game, that's a fully in control of your own destiny game. Iowa State needs help. So it's a desperation game for Iowa State, but also for both of these teams. And I 100% agree with you. I had this on the cutting room floor. I wasn't sure what to do with it. I'm glad you're making a move on this one. You kind of have to. Have you noticed BYU's suspiciously absent from the wall? And and I had the shirt in my hand. I'm like, I can't do it. I haven't added Arizona State to the collection.
Bloom is off the rose.
Sorry. Yeah. So I'm with you. So what are you going to do here? You take
Arizona State minus the 3.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping to get it at a 2.5, depending on which funky betting service we use here in Quebec, Canada. Yeah. But it's so if it's 2.5, I'd love it. 3.5, I like it a lot less because I think it is going to be a close game. But if we can get it for 3, I'll take it.
Yep. Yeah, and to me that's the only move here. They're just on a roll, and BYU obviously could have won that last game, but man, that ending. I wonder if that ending just kind of took the wind out of their sails a little bit. I don't know.
That's that's a great point. We've seen that a couple times in college this year where it's after some crazy endings, then all of a sudden it's the team's not right for a week or so after. And getting right on the road for this of an important game.
Against a team that's just riding a wave of a momentum wave.
Peaking at the right time.
Right. So. Yeah, you're right. It could just be a tale of two teams peaking at the opposite time. So yeah, I think you're on the right side of that one. All right. Next, I got Texas A&M at Auburn.
Ooh, what are you going this one?
A&M minus 2.5. What makes anyone think Auburn's going to compete here?
That was surprising. A lot of people have pointed that one out. It's that's if we guessed the line beforehand, both of us would have guessed over 2.5.
Yeah.
So like I get that it's at Auburn. I get that it's at night. I don't know what Auburn has done that, like they've lost, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of the last 8 games. They've won against Kentucky. They lost to Vanderbilt. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't understand this line. Maybe they're overweighting the home experience at Auburn or something.
Yeah,
But
and I also think that this is another. Not that I think everyone. It's always hard to. I struggle with ever saying like motivation. The one team wants to win more than another because they're, in general, everyone wants to win. Like it's not like they're. I don't know if that really separates as much as people think it is, but this is a really important game for Texas A&M, and I don't know what Auburn's playing for. So it's
Auburn's playing for pride. A&M can still get into the SEC championship game. Like this is a massive game for A&M.
Yeah.
So it's just whether or not they're going to be prepared or not. I mean, Vandy handled Auburn, handled them.
Yeah.
So I don't see how A&M's not going to be able to do it. If put it this way, if A&M shows up, they'll win.
Yes.
If they have to put
more than 2.5 points.
Well, they would have to put in a stinker of a game. If both teams equally show up, A&M will win.
Yeah.
I don't think Auburn's A game's beating Texas A&M's A game.
Yeah.
I guess that's the way to say it. All right.
Okay.
I got 3 more. What do you got?
Yeah, I got one more here. It's maybe 2. Okay.
Right.
So where am I finding here? Okay. So again, man, more in the Big 12 too. I'm if you told me at the beginning of the season I'd be this interested in Big 12 games at this point, I wouldn't have believed you. But I'm on the wave for Colorado. I think that they're peaking at the right time at Kansas. It's not that Kansas has a huge home field advantage. So I don't.
This is at Arrowhead. They don't have a home field.
Oh, that's right.
Year.
Yeah, that's right.
They're rebuilding their stadium.
That's right. Yeah. So it's the state of Kansas, but it's the Missouri actually. So, but it's I think it's going to be pretty much a 50-50 crowd game, if not more. Colorado and Kansas is good, but I just don't see. I think at the end of the game, Colorado's got the talent, and it's either the Sanders or Travis is going to make a difference at the end, and they can cover by more than a field goal. So
I think you're on the train of this one's also a team peaking at the right time. Like Colorado is playing their best right now.
Yes.
Now Kansas has been playing better,
really good,
but they don't have anything to play for besides pride. They're not making a bowl game. Well, I suppose they have an outside shot at a bowl game. But Colorado,
they're 4-6, but it's 4-6 with 2 games left, so they'd have to win the next 2.
Right, right. So I guess that's a desperation thing to make a bowl game and salvage the season. But the stakes are that much higher for Colorado to actually get into the Big 12 championship game and potentially even the playoffs. So maybe I'm just overly on the Colorado train just because of how much coverage, but I love it. I'm totally on this wagon. So I'm with you. I have a Colorado here minus 2.5 as well.
Yeah. No, and I think that Kansas they've lost close games, they've lost high scoring games. They've there's no, I don't know what the Kansas team, it's not like Iowa that always has like good defense and they just struggle scoring or something.
Jalen Daniels is such a wild card. He could be good for 3 awful interceptions, and Colorado's specialty is picking people off.
Yeah.
So his potential weakness doesn't line up really well with Colorado's one of their strengths on defense. Now all of a sudden the defensive line is good too, but I mean they're just ball hawks, all of them. So it's put it this way, for Kansas to win, Jalen Daniels has to play his best game, and it's been rare this season for him to put in his A game. Now lately he's been turning it over less, but it just doesn't. I think it's going to be close. I think both teams are going to score. I just think Colorado's going to squeeze it out because they seem to be peaking at the right time.
Yeah. The only other thing I was thinking about this one was the total's pretty high. It's 59.5. So I was leaning toward the under in this one because I just don't think it's going to. But I never want to take the under in a Colorado or a Big 12 game, really.
I don't want to take the under in a Colorado or Kansas game at this point.
Yeah, no, because it could get squirrely fast. So
yeah. I mean, Kansas can explode.
Both teams can.
Yes. Well, we know Colorado can, but Kansas can totally explode too. So it's I would stay away from the total. I'm boiling this down to they're relatively equal talent. Maybe Colorado's a bit more talented, but Colorado has more to play for is what I'm coming down to on this one. All right. So that was one of the ones I had. So my next is Bama at Oklahoma. I'm going Bama minus 13.5. It's a lot, but Oklahoma's awful.
Yeah,
they've just had their doors blown off by any good team. There's no reason to expect Oklahoma to compete here. Bama's got everything to play for. Oklahoma's season's kind of lost. So
Mhm.
we're in another situation here where I'm going with the team that this game seems to matter more, at least on the national stage. Obviously, for Oklahoma players and the administration, the coaching staff, every game matters to them.
Mhm.
But realistically, this has no bearing on their season, win or lose. They've
Mhm.
already dropped enough conference games that their season's kind of lost.
Yeah.
And this is just a pride game at this point for them, where Bama has everything to lose if they lose this game. Like, they need to hang on here, and
Yeah.
they need to win this game. Now, again, I'm saying it could be a 1-point win. Bama will take anything. I think they're just that much better than Oklahoma.
Yeah, I mean, this for me is falls down on Milrow, like depending which Milrow shows up. We've talked about that in the program before.
Yep.
You know, like there's some times where he looks unstoppable, right? And then there's other times
Mm-hmm.
where they struggle moving the ball. But the thing is that I was, you know, I agree with your pick. For me, is Oklahoma's lost to every good team they've played. Like
Mm-hmm.
they've lost to Missouri, Ole Miss, South Carolina, Texas. They beat Auburn barely, lost to Tennessee, like beat Houston, which is not good, you know. And so I that's to me what really stands out is that they've never beat a good team.
And they're not even
Um,
competitive losses.
no, some they're really blown out by Texas and South Carolina. So
Mm.
the two, you know, under 2 touchdowns right now seems like it's in Bama's wheelhouse. So
Yeah. I got one more here. You got anything else?
yeah, I got one more. It was let me find it here. Yeah, okay. So this is a similar principle to my Texas one, where Notre Dame is favored by over 2 touchdowns, but the over under is 44.5, which is a low total. Now it's Army, but this isn't your parents' Army, right? Like
Mm-mm.
this is like the Army can score a lot. Now the last game was the lower scoring, you know, 14-3 and 20-3 against Air Force, but they've also won games 45-28, 44-10, 49-7. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
I don't need that many points from Army, like 14 or something. And I think that Notre Dame could easily get 30. So that would put me over the total. So give me the over in the Notre Dame Army 44.5.
All right, that's slightly in conflict. I'm taking Army to cover the 14.5.
Ooh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, that's exciting.
I think they can move the ball here. And
Okay.
also, I think they can hold Notre Dame back. Notre Dame's not a super dynamic passing offense. They're a good running
Oh.
offense. And one thing Army's defense should be prepared for is a run
Yeah, well, hey,
attack.
listen, I think this matches up perfectly with our principles, because if you think Army can, if you're taking Army plus the 14.5,
Yeah.
you think Army can score.
Mm-hmm.
So if Army can score, then Notre
Oh, well,
Dame's going
yeah,
to
I
have to
guess so.
score more to hit the over 44.5. So I think that matches up fantastic. So this is either going to be an Army blowout, which we would win, or a Notre Dame covers late, you know, like there's, you know,
Mm-hmm.
scores late to beat by like under 2 touchdowns, in which case that's good for us too. So
Yep.
I was just worried this could be more of a rock fight. It's at the Yankee Stadium at a Sunday night in late November, so I'm a little worried
It's
about what
nobody really has an advantage there.
no, but I mean, as if it's poor weather, like that could be
Oh, I see what you mean.
rough,
Yeah.
you know. But it's, you know, if the conditions are okay, then hopefully that won't affect the
Yeah.
offense too much.
Well, that's it for games I want to bet on. Is there any? There's a couple
Uh,
of games
yeah,
I'm interested in looking at, though.
yeah, that's it for my bets too. I'm really excited about the Indiana Ohio State game because just to
Well,
see how.
we're betting on that too,
Yeah,
though.
and so just to see what the Indiana looks like too, because everyone's already proclaimed Ohio State is
The winner
going
there.
to kill
Yeah.
them, and then Indiana's just out. The what else? What else did you want
I'm interested in the Ole Miss Florida game. I'm
to? Ooh,
assuming Ole Miss is going to win. I didn't want to go anywhere near betting on it,
yeah,
but you also don't know what Florida you're going to get. They've been
yep,
playing really good lately. I don't expect Florida to win. I kind of wanted to take Florida to cover, but I just don't. I'm not going near it because
I
Ole
know.
Miss can also just be an avalanche.
Yeah,
So, and I think they're just the better team. So
yeah. No, that one's
they
tough.
need to keep winning too. This is a desperate. Again, there's all of these games where one team is in the mix for the conference championship and the playoffs, and the other team's
Is
fighting
not.
fighting for a bowl
Yeah,
eligibility, I guess. So I'm going to have eyes on that one because Florida's playing so good. Put it this way, I wouldn't be surprised if Florida gives them a run just for how good they're playing lately.
yeah. If that was 14.5, then I'd
Yeah,
feel
yeah.
better about Florida. 10.5 just feels like it's
No.
not quite enough.
And Ole Miss's defensive line, front seven actually is awesome.
Yeah.
Like, which is it was just overwhelming against Georgia. So if that Ole Miss shows up, then Florida has no chance.
Yeah.
Then the other one, SMU, is one of my wagons,
Yeah.
and
Virginia. I was thinking about that
I
too.
didn't really want to do much with that. I really wanted to take SMU to cover 10 points. Most of their games, they do that.
Yeah.
The one stupid one that didn't work with that we bet on them to cover was the Duke game, which came down to, I think, 1 point, but SMU still pulled it out. So that's one of the most fun offenses to watch. If you're not watching SMU, go back and watch their games. That quarterback's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And the running back, they can just move the ball. It's just whether or not they're gonna be able to. I mean, Virginia can't really. They're just not that good. It's just I don't like 9.5.
No, and I was the same as you. I think SMU can move the ball. I think they can score. I think Virginia can score. So I was looking at the total, but it's already pretty high at 57.5.
Yeah,
so
it's too much.
If that was lower, I would have felt better about that but yeah, I'm with you. I think it's the SMU's,
and then the SEC's back to their shenanigans. Georgia's playing Massachusetts, which is terrible.
Yeah.
Tennessee's playing UTEP, which is stupid. The other game that I'm going to have eyes on, but couldn't decide how to bet on it is Penn State at Minnesota.
Yeah.
I really wanted to take Minnesota to cover here.
Yep.
And I just don't know what kind of Minnesota is going to show up. They can play competitively and they can play some version of ball control here.
Yeah.
But again, this is another one where Minnesota's out of the mix for the conference championship. They're already bowl eligible. And now it's a home game. So that's got to be worth something in Minnesota. But Penn State needs style points here too. So I don't know. If anything, I'd take the over. But I don't.
And because it's pretty low at 45
and a half.
Yeah, because I was thinking that too. But this is the main thing for me is I just haven't seen many Minnesota games this year, so I don't really.
They're actually pretty good. I've watched about half their games.
I've seen the record. I've seen some of the highlights, but I don't. And I also don't know what Penn State we're going to get. Penn State gets killed by Michigan and Ohio State, and then every other team they pretty much blow away. So but who knows? It's at Minnesota. I would have leaned toward the over in this one just because if Penn State either rolls over or if Minnesota keeps it close, it's because they're scoring. So all
right, let's take the over. We're going to take the over.
Yeah, did we just talk ourselves into it?
Yeah,
okay, so we'll take the over. Yeah, yep. Because I think that's the only reason why I would take the under is if I think Minnesota is going to really struggle against Penn State's offense, and it doesn't feel like.
And then it's just like 40-3 or something.
Yeah, like that's right. Yeah. So, I think that it's Minnesota regularly scores in the 20s. So if Penn State,
let's take the over.
Okay.
All right. I think that's it for all of the other games I was interested in. You got anything else you're gonna want to watch here?
No, those are the main ones. And
Boise will be on a third screen just to see Genty do his thing.
Yeah,
but I don't expect that
was on the cutting room floor. That was at Wyoming is traditionally not an easy place to play, especially in like the Mountain West and stuff. And 23 points is a lot. And I think they're just going to feed Ashton Genty, which is going to decrease the number of possessions. So I was tempted to go with the Wyoming plus the 23, just because for Boise to blow them out by 3 touchdowns, I think but Wyoming's not good. So I have a hard time, doing that.
No, I'm kind of done betting on crappy teams like Purdue.
I know.
Yeah. So I'm just going to stay away from that. I'll watch it, but I don't want to bet on that game.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
I think that's it. There's nothing else that's super compelling. I don't know. Do you have anything else you're looking at?
No, it's going to be real like a separation type Saturday. We're going to know if Indiana is looking like they're going to be in the Big Ten championship or not. We're going to see if there was a couple other teams like if they're. The Arizona State BYU, we're going to see what happens there. Colorado, Kansas.
Colorado,
that one's
the Big 12's been fun to watch this year.
Yeah, no, for sure. So those are Texas A&M and Auburn. That one's
It's all. I'm betting all on the teams that making the championship game matters to them. I'm kind of just taking all of them, assuming they're going to put their A game in at this point.
Pretty good principle.
All right. Well, that's what we got for. What's that? Week 13 coming up. So check us out next week when we cash in all these bets. All right. Catch you later.